Good Sunday morning to you all. Welcome to the Suburban 4-7 Sports Cave. I am your host, Justin Rose, and I cannot dunk like Zach Levine can. Can you guys?
No.
No?
Nerf.
There was a time.
There was, oh!
There was a time.
Rod Beard from the Detroit News, Joe Rexrode from the Free Press joined me today. Guys, we're going to talk a lot about college basketball because you guys are experts at what you do here. Michigan coverage, Michigan State coverage.
I've been called worse.
Well, I've been called worse. I've been called worse. Yeah, well, it's rivalry week once again, of course, because Michigan and Michigan State play on Tuesday night. But before we can look forward, we have to look back. Michigan State finally gets a very important top 25 win.
Yeah, absolutely. The first ranked team Michigan State's beaten all year. Iowa and Indiana have been ranked at different times, so those are good wins too. But this is a win Michigan State had to have, and I think this is the first time Michigan State, knowing it's on the bubble, knowing the pressure's on, having to get a win like that, and coming up big late. I mean, it looked dicey late. Denzel Valentine, Travis Trice, Brandon Dawson, all coming up with big plays late in that game.
The big three needed to do something like that. And I think this game, not only is it big because of the win itself, but the way they won it. Because they had been in close games that went to overtime and late in games struggling, not hitting those buckets, and then going to overtime and kind of having that toss-up. So this game, that shot by Valentine, I mean, couldn't have asked for a better, at least moving forward.
Yeah, great shot by Valentine. I think the free throws by Brandon Dawson may have been the thing that, got Tom Izzo most excited. I mean, you saw him over there. He's like laughing in the middle of the game and screaming and yelling when Brandon Dawson makes 2 free throws, But it's been that kind of season for Michigan State and for Brandon Dawson, especially at the free throw line. So that's big for him. Travis Trice is benched now, maybe a little bit diminished role. Tum Nair, bigger role. But Travis Trice gets to the basket at a very key moment, 1:16 left in the game. So
Tom Izzo afterwards asked by numerous people in the media about, well, what does this mean for this team moving forward as far as an NCAA tournament bid? And, of course, Izzo, always candid with his comments.
You need good wins, but, I asked some people, we've had some good losses, too. I know that doesn't fare as well, but that's what happens when you play good teams. I'm not going to beg for an NCAA bid. I'm going to let our team do its talking. But this is one of those years the eyeball test might be more important than the others. I mean, every game we've played in has been right down to the wire except one. So we can compete with anybody.
I think that's the biggest thing he said. I'm not going to beg to get into the NCAA tournament.
Not yet.
Not yet, but he would probably do so. 20 wins, is that with – look, they play 4 of their last 6 games on the road, including a trip to Wisconsin, a trip to Indiana, who's going to be looking for a little bit of vengeance. They still have to play Purdue, who's been playing pretty good. There's no easy walk in the park for Michigan State the rest of the way. What's the magic number for them to get in?
I would say any combination getting to 20 would probably make this team safe going to Chicago for the Big Ten tournament. Okay. Anything less than that, I think work has to be done. But even if this team gets to 20, go to Chicago, lose a bad game, that could still be a little bit shaky on Selection Sunday. But I think 20 would do it.
Joe was a part of a really interesting thing where a lot of media people got together and did a mock NCAA tournament selection. So make sure you jump on Twitter right now, use the hashtag 7SportsCave, ask him a couple questions about what that was like, and he'll potentially answer those as we go on later in the show. But we got to talk about Michigan basketball as well, Rod.
Where was Michigan in that mock selection?
I swear to you, we watched the mock committee, watched the Michigan-Illinois game, and there was going to be a Michigan discussion the next day, had they not. I mean, at least a discussion.
Ooh. Whoa, look at that.
Okay. I mean, honestly, had Michigan not lost both of those bad games in the non-league, I think they'd still be somewhere on that bubble.
Discussion.
That's my next point. I mean, they've lost 4 straight, 5 of the last 6. I mean, they're kind of in that weird. I mean, where are they, Rod? Like, how do they salvage any of this?
It's like if the NCAA tournament is a relationship, this is the friend zone of. Yeah, I like you, but not kind of that way, because they don't have the resume that would dictate they could even be really in consideration, a strong consideration to have an NCAA bid like that. They lost to NJIT in Eastern Michigan, and those are embarrassing or bad losses, however you want to characterize it, but they don't have a win on their resume at all that you look at and say, hey, that's a good win. At Illinois, could have been getting there, but otherwise, you can't look at anybody that they beat and say, 1, that they're even an NCAA tournament team, or 2, that that's a good win and that's going to be something that you could repeat in the NCAA tournament.
I think you got to give a hand to head coach John Beilein. I mean, look, you got to call a spade a spade. I mean, they lost a lot of their talent going to the NBA. The injuries this year, Karis LeVert going down, and other guys not being completely healthy the whole time. He's actually keeping this team together. Take a look at what he had to say after that loss to Illinois the other day.
There wasn't one negative comment that we made after that game. Just, all right, we're going to grow from this, and we learned a lot, and I'll grow from it. We'll be better as a team. We'll be better as coaches. We'll be better individuals.
How much more can you expect from this team, though, than what it's giving right now?
I think we still have a lot. I mean, I think we haven't played our best basketball yet, and I think we're still going to hit our peak sometime soon. It's going to happen. We're going to start clicking, and the offense is going to start winning some games.
Dawkins' pause after the question was asked, a little bit telling to me. But the fact that he's keeping these kids believing this team could be potentially dangerous with the youth it has moving forward.
Well, in the future, but today is what they're worried about. And when you've got a lineup that has Aubrey Dawkins, Ricky Doyle, Sean Lonergan, who's kind of where'd he come from,
right,
and then Andrew Dockage, and then just throw anybody else out there. They're missing Karis LeVert and Derek Walton, and you can tell this is the time. In that Illinois game when they needed to make a shot, they needed baskets. It's one thing to have Spike Albrecht taking that shot because he has to, and another because he's wide open.
Right.
And he's not a number 1A guy. He might be a number 3 or 4th option. But you can't really depend on guys to play in extended roles and to do a lot more than what they're doing right now for long periods of time and have them succeed. It's just not that way. Nobody knew who Muhammad Ali Abdur-Rahman was before the year, and now he's a guy that's having to help to carry your team.
And he was the guy who gave Michigan State more trouble than anyone.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the development. Usually you see it from freshman to sophomore year. We've seen it with Trey Burke, Tim Hardaway, Nick Stauskas from freshman to sophomore year. This is from freshman to later in your freshman year that you're starting to see some of this pay some dividends.
So that brings us to our next point. This Tuesday night's game, Michigan State, obviously, I would say they're trending in the upward direction. Michigan still trending down, but it's the rivalry game. We saw in East Lansing that Michigan can hang with them, take the lead late in that game. I mean, there was 19 lead changes. An exciting game to watch. Do you expect a similar type game this time around in Ann Arbor? I will start with you, Rod.
I would expect them to stay there, but every time that we've looked at a game and said Michigan's definitely going to lose this game by double digits, which I thought at Illinois that it wouldn't be very close, they've been able to stay with that. At Wisconsin, or against Wisconsin, against Michigan State, all of the big games they've had to play, they've stayed close, and I think this will be another close game just because it's at home.
Do you think that Michigan State could potentially go in there and run away with it like they maybe thought they should have in East Lansing, or do you think another close one?
No, not really. I expect a completely down-to-the-wire game. It seems like every time in Ann Arbor especially, these games are always great. I expect the exact same thing. This is a toss-up game to me.
But Trey Burke is not walking through that door. Nick Stauskas is not walking through that door.
What's great about this rivalry, though, is we've got exactly what Tom Izzo asked for. Two basketball teams, relevant in the national picture most years. I mean, this year's a year maybe both programs have taken a little bit of a step back. But you guys have covered both these teams long enough. How much more fun is this, and how much do you think that galvanizes each fan base that both teams are as good as they have been?
I think it's been great. It's been a blast. And, last year they both get to the Elite Eight. Now they're both contending for championships. And what we really haven't seen yet is the Beeline-Izzo recruiting battle. Maybe with Cassius Winston, that's kind of on the horizon. We haven't had a lot of that yet, but that makes it even more fun. You look at Duke Carolina. I'm not comparing this rivalry to Duke Carolina, but I think it has a potential to be one of the better ones out there if they can sustain this for 5 years.
Real quick, Rod, anything to add to that?
You want to get Tom Izzo angry? Ask if Michigan has closed the gap. That's going to just turn him completely red. And that tells you about where this rivalry is right now.
All right, guys. Make sure you get those tweets in. #7SportsCave for either of these guys. Coming up later on in the show, Ask the Analyst. They will address those tweets. But up next, we've got another basketball coach in the building today. Greg Campy from the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. He's going to take a look at the Metro Series rivalry that's going on this afternoon. That's coming up later in the Suburban Ford 7 SportsCave. Stick with us.